Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Council would like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung as traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and can thank them for the continued care of the waterways and skies. We certainly pay our respects to elders past and present. We acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Greater Geelong community today. Now, this meeting is being broadcast on the internet, and the recording of this meeting will be published on Council's website. My name is Trent Sullivan, and I'm the Mayor of the Greater Geelong City Council, and I'll be chairing tonight's council meeting. Now, I'd like to welcome everybody who is here to City Hall. So welcome to everybody here who is here in person, and welcome to our community members online as well. We also have some special guests in the audience. So I would like to welcome the former member for Lara, Mr. John Erin, the current member for Lara, Ella George, the member for Geelong, Christine Cousins, and the member for South Barwon, Darren Cheeseman. Welcome to you all, and with your friends and family included as well. Thank you for being here this evening. It's only been a short time since our most recent council meeting, but there's plenty on as usual, not only in Geelong but afar as well. There's been certainly some events happening today which are absolute tragedies, and I believe, Councillor Murray, do you have something you'd like to say on the item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a moment here just to raise the absolute devastating tragic news that occurred in Queensland last evening, and the murder of two Queensland police officers, Rachel McCrow and Matthew Arnold. We've all been absolutely shocked by this news, so I just seek, Mr. Mayor, just a moment of silence at this time for those two slain officers.
Absolutely. Very well said, Mr. Murray. We'll now take a moment's silence to remember their lives ended in such tragedy. Thank you. Now, plenty is going on around this time of year, and on to lighter notes. Our reputation as the Christmas capital of Australia has also been continued to enhance recently, not only thanks to the city's many initiatives, but also due to the number of events being held across the entire community this time of year. Some of these events have been funded through Council, through our Christmas in the Community, via our Community Grants Program, which saw 9 neighbourhood houses awarded up to $4,000 to host a number of special celebrations, multicultural celebrations, and events which brought all members of our community together. So ensuring that everybody in our community has equal access to enjoy this time of year is highly important, and I'm proud that this council has played a role in helping give back to those who are doing it tough at this time of year, which is many amongst our community. At the start of each month, Council has also partnered with Gen U to present the 2022 Geelong Awards for People with Disability, which is a fantastic event. These awards, much like our Christmas in the Community grants, contribute to the Council's aim of promoting an inclusive, diverse, healthy and socially connected community within Greater Geelong. I want to take this opportunity to publicly congratulate all of those who were nominated and to say well done to the award winners, who were Ashley McDowell, Mackenzie Sinclair and Priscilla Pettiford. Now, tonight's council meeting will also be the last council meeting for the year, and with our very first meeting for next year, the 2023 calendar year, being on January the 31st. So I want to wish everybody across Greater Geelong a very safe and a very merry Christmas period, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody in the new year. Now, we do have a number of questions from the community to get through tonight, so we'll get started on that. I've just got a few procedural items to move first. So for councillors, I'll ask for strict adherence to speaking limits on the times tonight. I'll also ask that Councillor Grisbeck is noted as apology for tonight's meeting, as Councillor Grisbeck has previously been granted a leave of absence. I'll also ask that Councillor Nelson is granted an apology, as he's very unwell this evening. Councillor Mansfield is seeking that she be granted a leave of absence for the period 13th December to 19th December inclusive, for obvious reasons. Can we set up a mover for this leave of absence? Councillor Mason, a seconder, Councillor Murray, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. There's no other leaves of absence to be noted. Declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest in relation to tonight's agenda?
Mr Mayor, I have a conflict of interest for item 2.8. No, sorry, not 2.8, 2.4, I apologise, which is the precinct structure planning program. A couple of the landowners / developers that are involved in that project are customers of the business of which I am a director.
Thank you very much, Councillor Contell. If any other conflicts of interest do arise at the meeting, please make them known. Now, I have two sets of minutes to confirm. Copies have a mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 22nd of November 2022. Mover, Councillor Asher. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Aiken. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. And for the special council meeting, which was held on the 1st of December 2022, can I have a mover, Deputy Mayor Aiken, and a seconder, Councillor Asher. All those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. Right, we'll go straight into public question and submission time. This is a time that's specifically available for questions and submissions from the community rather than as a forum for discussion. In accordance with our policy, we set aside 45 minutes for question time, providing for each person to address the council for 3 minutes per question or submission, with a maximum of 2 questions per person. Questions and submissions which were provided in writing prior to this meeting will be the ones that are considered first. After this, when time permits, members of the gallery will be given the opportunity to ask a question or to make a submission. However, if it is in relation to an agenda item, councillors won't be able to provide you with an answer straight off the bat because you'll be able to hear us debate the issue very shortly. I note that there are some questions relating to an item on tonight's agenda which are directly directed at council laws, being item 2.2, which are the dog control orders for land managed by Barwon Coast Community of Management. As this is an item being considered tonight, councillors will be unable to directly answer any questions during the public question time, as it may bring about conflict when it comes to voting on the item. For those who have pre-submitted questions but are not present tonight, responses to your questions have been published on council's website and will be emailed to you directly as well. It's also important to note that all councillors here have read the questions that have been sent in. Now, for tonight's meeting, we've received pre-submitted questions from 3 community members and 1 submission to council. So we'll go through these items of interest. So we have, firstly, I'm just going to read these all out, Bernadette Uzlek, in terms of questions about waste management in regards to Eastern Beach Reserve, Judith Brooks, for the subject of road safety concerns, Barwon Terrace, Barwon Heads, Warren Chapman, all abilities access at Ocean Grove Main Beach and the use of beach markers in the dog control orders, and a submission from Bernadette Uzlak in regard to littering and waste management, Eastern Beach Reserve. May I have a show of hands in the gallery for whose names I've just read out? 1, 2. No worries, thank you very much. Alrighty, we'll go straight into that then. I'll go alphabetical as is my submitting. So if you're here, Bernadette, I saw you earlier. If you please approach the front here and have your question. Bernadette, as well known as you are, I do need you to state your name at the front, please. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Bernadette Uzlak, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you very much to the Mayor and councillors tonight. So my submission and questions related to littering and waste management at Eastern Beach Reserve and the current lack of appropriate strategies and actions to address these issues. So in brief, a summary of the key issues that I wanted to address with council tonight are around management of litter at Eastern Beach, which results in litter problems, and we've seen that in fairly recent times, the visual and environmental impact of litter on Eastern Beach, loss of public amenity due to litter scattered across the entire area and pools, the health and safety risks of litter, waste of resources required to clean up litter, insufficient and inappropriate waste receptacles throughout the reserve, the current domestic type rubbish bins which aren't fit for purpose at times of high use. They're too small and get filled quite quickly. Current bins require physically touching the lid to open and place rubbish inside, and many people would find this practice unhygienic, particularly over the last couple of years with COVID, so they would therefore avoid using the bin. All rubbish is commingled and sent to landfill, so there's no separation of waste for recycling. And I won't talk about recent removal of rubbish bins because they have been returned, but there is insufficient visual messaging to encourage positive behaviours. A lack of signage in languages other than English at Eastern Beach Reserve. And many visitors who leave rubbish behind do not provide any economic stimulus to the economy. Thus, cleaning and maintenance of Eastern Beach is funded by ratepayers. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, the issue. And I wanted to draw Council's attention to the fact that after a particularly busy day, Eastern Beach is often a sea of litter and refuse is spread all around the reserve, the promenade, and sadly floating in the water. All types of litter. And why is this a problem? Locals are very frustrated and saddened by the state of the facility a day after such an event, and it happens very frequently, particularly over summer when there's high use of the facility and there's potentially up to 10,000 or more people using the reserve. The City of Greater Geelong has a waste and resource recovery strategy 2020 to 2030 and has as its number one goal creating waste with a target of diverting 80% of waste from landfill by 2030. And in May of 2022, the progress report to Council on its waste and resource recovery strategy actions indicates that all 79 actions were completed. However, there is no mention of actions to address public spaces and waste generated by tourists and visitors. And I go back to the launch of the strategy, and then Mayor Stephanie Asher said it was time for the city to approach waste differently. This comprehensive strategy is full of clever and creative ways to reduce the city's waste footprint. The city will transition to a new era of waste and resource recovery management in an effort to minimise the impacts of waste and protect the beautiful natural environment we love so much. So what's happened in the last couple of years? Very little on Eastern Beach foreshore. The research has indicated that people litter in already littered places and they refrain from littering in pristine environments. Walter Schultz, who's a psychologist from California State University, said oftentimes people litter simply because there isn't a trash can nearby. Rather than uncomfortably carrying trash away with them, people decide it's easier to leave it behind. We found that the distance to a trash receptacle was the strongest predictor of littering. So the farther away you are from a trash can or a recycling container, the more likely you are to litter. There are many examples internationally of very successful waste and litter campaigns, and I think the key issues that we need to address are around education, community engagement, finding a waste management system that's fit for purpose and meets the city's waste management strategy objectives, and one that's going to engage not only locals but also visitors to the region. How can we engage their hearts and minds? There needs to be a specific master plan for Eastern Beach. Eastern Beach does not have a master plan. As part of the waterfront strategy, which was struck many years ago, over 10 years ago, Eastern Beach was barely mentioned. So I know my time has probably come to a conclusion, so I will end there, but my issue is really what can we do about litter, particularly with the summer months and Christmas, New Year period coming up. How can we be more proactive and address this rather than providing band-aid solutions and cleaning the mess up afterwards? Thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette. Certainly I appreciate coming in and making the submission, especially at this time of year where it's very prominent. We have a director, Guy from City Services here to give us an answer on current fixes we're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you. On the key public holidays, daily waste removal, extra cleaners,
Bye. Bernadette, you came up and asked your questions originally. However, you also have a submission which you've attached to this, which you've built on already. Would you also like to speak to the submission independently?
Yes, so look, I have already addressed the submission independently. However, I would just like to address the issue of big skips because that has not really proven to be a totally effective strategy at Eastern Beach. First of all, they're visually an eyesore, particularly when they're located close to the amenity of Eastern Beach. Many people who visit Eastern Beach are from many different cultures. They have very many different expectations and norms and don't necessarily understand that the big skips are there for them to put their waste into, and they refrain from doing it. I've observed this. So going by the international research, it's about providing something that is visually understood by people in a language also that is understood by people who use the facility. So not necessarily being punitive and using CCTV cameras to capture people who are littering, but it's around the educational piece and providing receptacles that are close to people, that are cleared away on a regular basis and not just at the end of the day. So thank you.
Well noted. Thank you very much, Bernadette, for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Right, now, Judith Brooks. How are you, Judith? Excellent.
Good evening, Mr Mayor and councillors. Our question tonight is concerning safety issues with a little road in Barwon Heads. It's only 200 metres long, but it's causing us quite a lot of problems. I speak on behalf of the residents of number 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 8, 11, 12, 15 and 16 together, 18, 19, 21, 27 to 29, 31, 33, 34, 35, 37, 38 and number 19 Barwon Terrace tonight. These are people who have all supported our campaign for the road. After a series of consultations and on-site meetings, Bellarine councillors and officers from the environment and engineering sections are well briefed on the safety issues raised by the 20 residents, or the 20 families actually, at Eddystone Court. Barwon Terrace is our access road. It is narrow, it is overgrown, and it is dangerous. For all the vehicles that have to go down that road to get into Eddystone Court. We believe it is currently not fit for purpose, which is a two-way carriageway. And we believe it's only going to get worse as the families in the 28 houses are going to grow and children are going to get cars. So our question tonight is, given our meetings and discussion and briefings, what action is proposed by the council and when will it be implemented? I have another little question arising from today. We noticed today that traffic counters had been installed across the little Barwon Terrace. Can anyone explain to us why this has been done, its purpose?
Thank you, Judith. And thank you for your follow-up since our on-site meeting not too long ago. So ask now for Director of City Services, Guy Wilson-Brown, to come up and give us some information.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Judith. And I'll just check that the PA is working properly. The light is to be on, that's good. The short answer to your question, there's some action happening now and there's further action planned for the new year. the city has arranged for some line marking to be done on the bend, which will obviously improve safety, and for some brush cutting to be undertaken as well, which will improve sight lines. As you pointed out, we've got the installation of traffic counters, which measures speed and volume. So we will have a better understanding of what traffic measures might be required when we understand the nature of vehicles, the number of vehicles and the speed that they're travelling at. That information provides the data that the traffic engineers need to design the appropriate traffic measures if required, once they've analysed that data. So we'll give you the outcome of that analysis in January. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Bye. Answer your question sufficiently, Judith?
No, but it's an ongoing campaign.
I believe it will be. Please stay in touch. Thank you. All right, do we have Warren Chapman here this evening? I didn't see a third hand go up. If not, we now have some remaining time. So is there any other members of the gallery here who wish to make a question or submission to council? If not, then that will conclude question time for the evening. Thank you again to the submitters of questions this evening and who have questions for council officers and councillors alike. I'll now ask if there are any petitions or joint letters to be tabled this evening. There are none. I'll move to the next part of the meeting, which I believe there is a procedural motion to be moved.
There is indeed, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move a procedural motion that item 3.1, Notice of Motion, City of Greater Geelong State and Federal Elected Parliamentary Service Recognition Program, be brought forward for Council's immediate consideration.
Thank you very much, Councillor Asher. Do you have a seconder for that? Seconded, Councillor Contel. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. This notice of motion is brought forth. The notice of motion is from Councillor Aiken-Contel. Do you wish to move this? Do you have this motion?
To move the my notice of motion.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Mason. Excellent. Councillor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you, Councillor Mason, for seconding this motion. Look, under Councillor Sullivan's leadership, he's actually asked us to look at civics and how we can actually improve our civic relationships in Geelong. And what the council's actually being asked tonight is to support the establishment of the City of Greater Geelong State and Federal Parliamentary Service recognition program. To be eligible for this program, the council is saying that you should be a retired or electorally defeated state or federal parliamentarian, service of 10 years or more as an elected state and or federal parliamentarian. You also should be elected as a parliamentarian within the area of the City of Greater Geelong. The program is preferred to be activated at the first council meeting immediately after a state or federal election. Now, let me just talk a little bit about what we're attempting to do tonight. Australia and Geelong are privileged to be governed under a democratic system built on the parliamentary model of the United Kingdom and our federal and state constitutions. Elected parliamentary service is the pinnacle of our democratic system in Australia. Members of our community who serve as elected parliamentarian officials are representing our local community at the highest level, protecting and enshrining the democratic principles we value so highly as Australians. To serve at any level of government is an honour as an elected official, but to serve over 10 years plus deserves recognition of the contribution that those individuals and their families, and I'll repeat that again, and their families have made to our democracy and our local community in Geelong. Council is the best placed democratic institution to actually use its civic responsibilities and its leadership to our local community to establish this program. I'm actually overjoyed tonight that if we adopt this program, the first recipient will be somebody who actually has served our community for over 20 years in parliamentary service. and has actually served our community with great distinction. And on a personal level, as a representative for the northern suburbs, I've had the utmost pleasure to be working with the Honourable John Aaron for the last 5 years, and the community has benefited for over 20 years for his service to the City of Greater Geelong. So if we do adopt this program tonight, it will be with great joy that I will see the Mayor of the City of Greater Geelong presenting a service recognition to the Honourable John Aaron as the first recipient of this new civic program for the City of Greater Geelong. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Mason, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I fully endorse the sentiments of that have just been expressed, and it's really valuable to note that 10 years of service is really something very special, and it can be from either side, any side of the political spectrum, and 10 years of service really does indicate a very significant proportion of the population have endorsed whoever it might be, and they have provided that service over such a long period of time. So I think it's a wonderful gesture. I'm very pleased to see so many of our elected and past representatives here tonight, and the families who have, as just been mentioned, have made so many sacrifices over a long period of time. So in particular, I congratulate the Honourable immediate past, Honourable John Aaron. I'm not sure if it's a title in perpetuity. I'm sure it is, John. And I'm really pleased to see you here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Do other councillors wish to speak on this item? Councillor Quintel.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I will take a few minutes to talk to it. I fully support Councillor Aitken's initiative, and I think it's only fitting. In fact, as councillors, we actually get recognised by the state for our service. And in fact, just recently, Councillor Aitken and I and Councillor Nelson were recognised for years of service by the state. So it's only fitting that we also recognise the services of our local representatives. Just to selfishly touch on John very quickly, I was just thinking about John as I was driving down the road, and one of the things about John is that, I went to quite a number of multicultural functions, sporting functions, Vietnam veteran functions, all sorts of functions that we would go to as councillors. And the one person I always knew that I would see there would be John. And there's no doubt that John represented his community, which was also our community and my community, with passion. And I just said to John in the back room there, I certainly thanked him for his 20-odd years of service. John and I share some similarities in upbringing and backgrounds. I did say to John, we've had some robust discussions and some ups and downs, but it's only because we care. And at the end of the day, I know that all of that came and does come from a good place, and that the respect amongst us councillors and John, and particularly myself to John, is very, very high. And I know that John always came from the right place. And John, I wish you and your family only the best into the future.
Thank you, Councillor Quintel. Councillor Harwood.
Mr Mayor, I'd also just like to publicly thank John for his service to the community, but also, I guess, the relationship I got to enjoy being on council, and also particularly being mayor at particular times, and your guidance and assistance, I guess just general knowledge, and just more than anything, I think I can say this quite public, a really good, respectful friendship over that time, and just I really did appreciate the times we got to have different discussions about a whole range of things, and we didn't always agree, but that's the beauty of, I guess, government at all levels, but still being able to get out a good outcome for the community, which we're seeing today. So thank you for the long service you've given, and I do wish you all the best and the family for the future. Long and healthy happiness.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Councillor Asher.
Mr Mayor, I'd also like to acknowledge your time and effort and energy, John. It was about 10 years ago, I think, that I first had a coffee with you over in Corio Village, and every time I came out and had coffee with you, it was very obvious how much your community respected you and loved you, and you've always been a very stable and consistent personality in my view, and your hair never does move, so that's always been impressive as well. And I think I do still owe you some local grown Bellarine bananas. So congratulations, well done, and best wishes to you and your family for the future.
Councillor Murray.
I'll be short. All the best to you, John, and well done.
Yeah. With that, I'll throw back to Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan. Look, in council, it's nice to do nice things. And this really is a nice thing to actually do. And it's not just John. Hopefully in early next year, we'll be able to acknowledge Lisa Neville, who will also has reached the milestone that we've established to be able to receive this local recognition. It is fantastic that Christine Cousins is sitting there as well too. She's only 2 years short, and with her recent re-election, she actually will pass 10 years. So I look forward to acknowledging Christine in the future if I'm here as a councillor as well too. And Darren, we will consider your federal parliamentary service and your state parliamentary service if you do get re-elected to serve 10 years as well too. There's a number of other parliamentarians that are currently sitting that probably are eligible, including Gail Tooney as well too, in terms of 10 years plus service. Kylie and I are biased. We would love to see Ella Jaws serve 10 years plus in the northern suburbs as well too. And of course, Ella is just freshly minted as the elected candidate for replacing John. But on behalf of the community of Geelong, we really do thank all our parliamentarians for their service. And in particular tonight, we're getting the opportunity to thank John and his family, which I think is so important that we have to acknowledge. Family is so important because they actually provide the support to us as councillors, but also to parliamentarians and their service as well too. So I thank you for the support of the councillors and the Mayor's support for this as well too. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Now, councillors, I'm seeking a mover and a seconder that standing orders be suspended for the City of Greater Geelong's state and federal elected parliamentary service recognition program. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Harwood, seconder. Councillor Contel. All those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. John. The council, all the councils here, would like to acknowledge and celebrate the contribution that retiring MP John Erin has made not only to this region, but to the entire state of Victoria. John stepped down from state politics at the last election after 20 years of exemplary service in the Victorian Parliament. He represented the Geelong province in the Legislative Council from 2002 to 2006, and Lara in the Legislative Assembly from 2006 until this year. After serving as Shadow Minister for Sport, Tourism and Volunteers whilst in opposition, John led the Ministries of Tourism and Major Events, Sport and Veterans Affairs from 2014 to 2018. He was instrumental in helping change the culture and profile for women and girls in sport, with massive investment in female-friendly facilities across the entire state, backed by the creation of the Office for Women in Sport and Recreation, a great achievement. John also had the honour of representing Victoria at the commemoration ceremonies in Gallipoli in 2015, marking the 100th anniversary of the Gallipoli campaign. Council has valued the relationship that we've had with John, and together we've helped deliver so many fantastic projects in the northern suburbs with his guidance. We were very thankful for his support in helping us secure $8.5 million from the state government to help make the Northern Aquatic and Community Hub a reality, a fantastic lasting legacy to his service. Alongside the government's adjacent Barwon Health facility in the north as well, it will create a much needed health and wellbeing precinct in Norlane. There are so many other great achievements that John can be proud of, and we've seen the regeneration of local schools in Corio and Norlane, including the creation of Northern Bays College and a secondary school in Lara. The formation of Northern Futures in partnership with Federal Corio MP Richard Marles, Deputy Prime Minister, has helped so many residents find secure employment and create a positive future, not only for themselves, but for their families as well. Furthermore, the township of Lara has developed under John's leadership and received a new police station, CFA station, and ambulance station, all incredibly vital. There have also been countless investments in local sporting clubs, community groups, multicultural groups, and important local initiatives along the way. The contribution that John has given to Geelong and to the Victorian communities is evidenced by all the progress and legacy projects that he leaves behind. Congratulations to you, John, for your outstanding service to the community, to the state, and all the best for your life post-politics. Round of applause, please, for John. John, I'll now invite you to say a couple of words, if you'd like, at the lectern up here, please.
Thank you. Can I firstly acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. There's a lot of people to acknowledge here tonight, and obviously I want to start by my parliamentary colleagues, Christine Cousins, the member for Geelong, who is the first parliamentary secretary for First Peoples, and I really congratulate her and her passion about setting things straight in relation to our Indigenous population. So thank you very much for all your support, Christine, in the many years that we've been working together. Thank you. To Darren Cheeseman, of course, the Parliamentary Secretary for Fun, Com Games. It's going to be very exciting over the next 4 years, obviously, with him steering in terms of some of the events that will happen in Geelong, and certainly all of the infrastructure work that will go on. And I thank Darren for his friendship in all of these years that he's been a member and I've been a member. So thank you very much, Darren. To now Ella George, of course I'm her constituent now, and she's the MP, and I can't be happier to have Ella replace me because I know her talent, her ambition to make sure that she does her job diligently in terms of representing one of the best electorates in the state. And I know that she will do a great job, and I really appreciate the fact that that she has actually taken this up, because you know, nobody knew in terms of the future, into my parliamentary career and when it would end, and I'm pleased to say that she was able to take on this very important role, and I thank her very much and congratulate her on her elevation to becoming the MP for Lara. So thank you very much. To, of course, all of you councillors, the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, all of you councillors who I've had an immense relationship with. The two tiers of government are the closest tiers of government. Both state and council do work very closely with each other to improve the lives of the people that we represent, and I thank every one of you for doing what you do. It's a thankless job sometimes, being a public servant, but we do what we do because we love it, and I thank you all very much for what you do, and I thank you for this opportunity for acknowledgement of my service, so thank you very much to all of you. To the most important people in my life, obviously my wife, Geraldine, who, and it's been mentioned tonight, it's not just the person in the spotlight, it's actually all of the people that around me that have made me successful and be the person that I am today. And of course, Geraldine, my children are here, my grandchildren are here, my extended family are here. Without all of you supporting the work that I did, this could not be possible. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I love you so much, and I will be spending lots more quality time together. So thank you. As I've indicated, serving the public is not for the faint-hearted. Obviously, it's a tough game. It's challenging, to say the least. One thing I've learned is that you don't choose to serve the public chooses to serve who serves them. And I think that's a very important point. There are people that are blessed by being elected to certain different tiers of government, and there are certain people that try to get elected but are unsuccessful. But they all have good intentions. They all believe that they can bring something new to the table, that they can change the world, that they can make a difference in people's lives. And I respect that. But we sometimes, we can't choose what we do. We're chosen to do what we do by the people. And that's why it's such an important role that we all collectively play. And I've got to say, the political gods have smiled upon me. In my time, I've had a great career in the last 20 years, made lots of changes. I won't go through everything that's already been mentioned, but you know, as I've indicated before, I chose my retirement, and I'm lucky to have my preferred candidate to replace me in Ella. My best friend Richard Marles becomes the Deputy Prime Minister this year. We win state government for a record third term, and all of my good friends are elected to their respective seats in our region. And of course, last but not least, that's why I wear this tie, the perfect icing on the cake is that we win the grand final. It's a dream. I pinch myself. It can't get any better. You know, I wish all of you, whenever the time comes that you retire, that you're as blessed as me, and the political gods smile upon you like they have to me. It's been an absolute honour and a pleasure, obviously, and I'm very grateful and honoured to represent my community for 20 years, both in the upper house for the first 4 years of my political career, and then the rest of it in the lower house seat of Lara. There's been so many, I suppose, achievements in the north, and I just want to reiterate, there are certain commentaries that are made about safe seats not getting anything, and let's make them marginal. Every election that I've contested, I've increased my margin, because people understand, the people that vote are pragmatic. They understand the advancements that are going on in their electorate. And it's a bit insulting to say to people that they're voting for the wrong people because they want to make it marginal. They actually know exactly how they're voting because they're getting value for a dollar, value for the vote that they are putting in, because the amount of investments, I've got 8 to 10 pages long of achievements since 2014, which obviously, as a part of the Labor government, we govern for everyone, and I'm really pleased that we've made so much advancements in the area that I represented for those years. But the one that sticks to my mind, and I think you've touched on it tonight, as a Turkish-born person, for us to be in opposition between 2010 and 14, and then after one term, which is a very rare occasion, for after one term regaining government, and in that time, I become the Minister for Veterans in the year of the centenary for Gallipoli. Now, where would you read that in a book? My grandfather was fighting on the opposite side of the Anzacs. In fact, some of my wife's uncles probably were fighting against my grandfather. And here I am, the Minister for Veterans in Gallipoli, representing Victoria at that very special event. Now, that is something very special. And I think, and that's why I value the democracy that we have in this nation. It wouldn't happen anywhere else in the world. I truly believe this is a wonderful country. If you aspire high office, this is the country that you would most be successful in. And of course, when you consider some of those mentions that have been made about women in sport, I recall when we made the announcement, well, not the announcement, but the decision to invest $65 million into the Netball and Hockey Centre in Royal Park in Parkville. I rang Rosie King, who's the CEO of Netball Victoria, and she was away somewhere, so were we actually, we were away. And I said, congratulations, you've got the $65 million to make it the state-of-the-art netball centre out of Parkville. She cried on the phone. She said, you have no idea how much this will mean for all those women and girls that play netball. This is magnificent. And so when you think of the life-changing decisions that governments make, all collectively we all make, it's long-lasting. It affects many people in a positive way. Education was a key platform for me. Education, I've got this saying, I know my wonderful ex-staffer is here, Kelly Toyin. She's up the back there, one of the best going around, best electorate officer going around. My saying is that what if the cure for cancer was in the mind of a child that couldn't afford education? What if? What if there was not a level playing field when it comes to education? But there was a child that was in a disadvantaged area that couldn't afford education. But that child had the cure for cancer and couldn't tap into it because of the lack of resources. So for me, education is one of the most important things. And looking back, the regeneration of the 5 campuses now of Northern Bay, and indeed every single school in my electorate have received literally millions of dollars. We've calculated about $100 million have been invested into the electorate of Lara for education, which is such an important part of changing some of those cultural issues that we have in the northern suburbs particularly. The Northern, or the Northern Arc, or now it's the Northern Aquatic and Community Hub, is one of those projects that I truly believe in, and every time I drive past it, seeing it getting constructed, I just congratulate the council, the whole council, for their investment of $61.5 million into a wonderful facility that will see so many generations of the people that live in the north benefit from that project. And I want to thank, at the outset, Christine and Darren for their support in terms of the monies that we received from state government, the $8.5 million that we've committed to. It's one of those projects that is transforming the whole area, and it will, right next door to Barwon Health North. It will be a health hub, not to mention the opportunities for some theatre. And David Greenwood, I know, is very happy about some of the activities that will go on. We've got plenty of sporting facilities, but we also need artistic opportunities for kids that want to branch out into a different field other than sport. So that is a fantastic facility that I want to thank Council for investing such a large amount of money. Look, I won't go on. There are so many other achievements that have happened in the north, and I'm really, truly blessed to have been a part of it. It's a collective team. We've all worked really hard to make Geelong a better place, and I've always been of the view that if you're a representative of any tier of government, if you can't make the area that you represent better than when you found it, then what good are you? I think everybody needs to strive, and I'm sure that everybody does, to change people's lives in a positive way, because, you know, there are so many people that depend upon us and our decisions in terms of their lifestyle, and I'm very happy, and I can sleep easy at night knowing that I've tried my best. I've given it 150% in trying to make that electorate a better place than when I found it, and I hope I have. I wish you and all of your loved ones a Merry Christmas and a happy, healthy, prosperous New Year. Take care. Thank you so much.
And I'll say that was quite actually very inspiring as well, John, so thank you for those words. Before I resume standing orders for the rest of the council meeting, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't wish to, so please, if you and your family wish to take off and enjoy the rest of the evening, you're most welcome. Thank you for your time.
Not been anyone left in the chamber.
No, jeez.
Oh, yes, there is.
Well done, everybody.
There is some there.
Right, now looking to resume standing orders. Can I please have a mover for this to be resumed? Councillor Contell, seconded by Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Standing orders are resumed. I'll now proceed into section 2 of reports, with number 1 being the Youth Council final report. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Maloney. Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Councillor Mason, please. What do we have? Councillor Mason, please.
I'm very happy to move this, Mr Mayor. Just as a point, I caught off guard. I thought we were going to get the report from the Youth Deputy Mayor.
Do we have a speaker lined up for this evening? Yep. Come forward.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Finn Rowbottom, the Junior Mayor of the 2022 Youth Council. Youth Council would like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people, the traditional owners of the land, waterways and skies, and pay our respects to the elders past and present. We acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are a part of our Greater Geelong community today. Good evening, Mayor Sullivan, Greater Geelong councillors, directors, Geelong Youth Council representatives, and community members here tonight. Youth Council members have thoroughly enjoyed the Councillor Connect mentoring program and have appreciated the time spent with councillors through this unique experience. The commitment to us and the program has greatly supported and engaged us in civic leadership, developed and increased our interest, understanding, and knowledge of local government, and has provided us with a platform to advocate on priorities that are important to young people's lives. On behalf of Youth Council, I would like to say thank you to each of you for your time, support, mentorship and guidance throughout the year. All members have grown both personally and professionally through this program, and as Junior Mayor, I feel truly accomplished from my time in Youth Council. It has been an incredible and rewarding experience. For the final time this year, and in our term as Youth Council, I'd like to present our advice for the Council's consideration. Our first piece of advice addresses the topical issue of recycling soft plastics, specifically those generated at Wariki Nyal, and aims to highlight the importance of our role in supporting the development of a circular economy. With the cessation of the Red Cycle scheme operating from Coles and Woolworths, it is important we demonstrate environmental leadership and support the uptake of the recycling industry to manage our waste and repurpose soft plastics into new products that can be used across the municipality. Locally in the Geelong region, emerging startups are surfacing with new technologies to recycle soft plastics. A partnership with a local company such as this could strengthen our ability to contribute to a circular economy, whilst also linking perfectly to our 30-year vision to be a clever and creative community. We would also like to highlight Council's important role as a major purchaser of goods, both locally and nationally. The establishment of a mature circular economy requires organisations like local governments with strong purchasing powers to commit to purchasing more products manufactured using waste materials. Our second piece of advice encourages Council to include the newly developed climate change thinking modules in the mandatory compliance training package delivered to Council staff. To take this advice further, Council could also consider making this training available to all community members, as this opportunity would increase the visibility of the greater work Council has achieved, while accelerating the city's progress in being a knowledgeable, aware and climate-ready city. Council's third piece of advice focuses the redistribution of funding within Council's environment and sustainability grant stream. Youth Council believe that if more larger scale projects are funded, the rate at which the community can drive change and innovation to reduce emissions will be greatly increased. Youth Council also believe that including environment and sustainability as a key objective within assessment criteria across all grant streams would be a great opportunity to upskill and educate the community to promote and embed greener practices when accessing council funds. Our last piece of advice considers the development of new bike parks and the maintenance of existing bike parks and tracks. As the largest regional centre in state, Geelong could be a leader in this space, which would assist the city to become a world-class, inclusive destination that inspires visitors to create memories and depart with a desire to return. Youth Council were inspired by the city of Wangaratta and the Mornington Peninsula Shire, where with support from Council, young people are learning how to build fit-for-purpose bike jumps in authorised locations with well-signed code of conduct and parameters. Youth Council encourage Council to seek out these leaders in local government and would like to draw special attention to Mornington Peninsula Shire's recently developed mountain bike and BMX strategy, whilst exploring and considering opportunities for Geelong. Geelong's bike parks and trails are not receiving the maintenance they require. For example, the Hill, the BMX tracks next to the Fort Instead Park, South Barwon Reserve and Warn Ponds are all in need of repair, improvements and maintenance. Youth Council would like councils to review and increase the maintenance schedules for these facilities to ensure that they are safe, so that riders have access to safe, fun and challenging authorised bike trails. This concludes our final pieces of advice as the 2022 Youth Council. Please note that we have worked hard to formulate these recommendations with support from our youth communities. The 2022 Youth Council will pass on a number of legacy projects to the 2023 Youth Council, including the work completed on the Central Youth Dedicated Space, our continued work on bike parks and tracks, and our breadth of work completed in the environment and sustainability space. Lastly, I would like to thank my fellow Youth Council members for joining me in this journey and sharing such incredible memories and stories that have made a lasting impact on our lives. Thank you for listening and good night.
Thank you very much to our Junior Mayor for that fantastic final report. Very, very well spoken. I'll now throw over to Councillor Mason to move.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and I also thank the Youth Junior Mayor for such an excellent speech and a really well thought out one as well. It's really wonderful to have we heard the word legacy tonight, and there's certainly a wonderful legacy as carrying on from the previous Youth Council and of course to the next one. And there's no doubt that they've really worked hard and they've continued their advocacy, as we've noted, for an integrated youth hub in central Geelong. And that's one of the many things we'll take careful consideration of. Another thing, we are a progressive council, but we have an even more progressive Junior Youth Council. And we have so many great ideas coming to them and we have to listen. And as Environment Chair, I'm extremely heartened by the Youth Council's interest in this important worldwide issue. And that is their second major focus area, which is the environment and the constructive advice that they've given there, such as the 6-star Neighbours sustainability rating and the observations they've made about what we need to do at Wariki Nyal, and the various other observations about recycling and plastics and the RED cycle, etc. So I'm really heartened by all of their advice. We'll have to take very careful note of that. And we've really do understand the depth of understanding that they've shown. and that we do want more participation in the community. And it's interesting that they've also advised us that about the e-learning modules that should be applied to staff, but not only to staff, but the whole community. Also, we note that they've looked far and wide as far as bike jumps and quality bike parks, as far as Wangaratta and then Mornington. So we need to take advice there, and we are sorry to hear that the Youth Council finds that some of our facilities are not quite up to standard, such as at Warren Ponds and Stead Park. So I'd like to thank the Youth Council for their respective and constructive engagement this year. We've really enjoyed, all of us have really enjoyed the mentoring programs. Certainly the direct experience I've had with my fellow Bellarine councillors, and it's been extrapolated to all of the other wards as well. We certainly have budding leaders here. We heard the Honourable John Erin tonight speaking, and we've got another generation of wonderful leaders coming along. And I do thank Finn for the excellent presentation tonight. I'd just like to add nominations for the 2023 Youth Council closed on the 7th of November, and the 2023 Youth Council will be announced in January. And I look forward to this Youth Council providing the usual advice that's been becoming the custom, and I'm sure that the new Youth Council will benefit from your advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you, Junior Mayor Finn, for that wonderful address. And thanks also to Junior Deputy Mayor Angel for her address in the previous meeting as well. And thank you, Sarah, as well, the Cardinia rep, for being here tonight. I've been really privileged to be sitting in on the Youth Council mentoring sessions, and I think I speak on behalf of a few of us that those have been incredibly valuable to us, to open our eyes to what is really going on from a different perspective. And I think that that's where the good stuff is, you know, the real zest of life. I don't claim to be someone who knows everything. I want to find out a little bit more. And from your perspective, you've shared not only what is crucial for people coming up and about to perhaps graduate into a new level of school, or go out to uni, or go out to a trade and work, or an apprenticeship. And it's tough out there. It's been a rugged couple of years, but you're here showing up, giving us advice that's not only exacting and knowledgeable and, you know, challenges us with new schools of thought, but in a professional and respectful manner, in a really well-formed interaction, whether it be via our meetings, whether it be via these kinds of reports that we receive, and the things that we go out and do in the community, and we start to sniff around and we ask questions as a result of the direct interaction with you. So thank you so much, especially for your advocacy of the Integrated Youth Hub. I know Christine Cousins was here just a moment ago, and that's something that she's very keen to see happen, and I'm sure we'll make good on that in the next few years, fingers crossed. Also, I'm so grateful for your focus on and continued focus on the environmental lens, sustainability, and especially the education that's needed of our constituency. Super grateful for that. Other people flying the flags for us. So we've learned so much, and also I really just want to say thank you for your focus on active movement and bike parks and getting people out and amongst exercising where they can, because being outdoors, after this last few years has been a real boon to see people out and being active in our community. So really gracious, incredibly knowledgeable and wonderful bunch. Thank you so much for the experience, and really appreciate this report. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Look, the voice of youth is so important to hear, and the council established this powerful program that we actually have to hear young people, and in particular people between the ages of 12 and 17. And you have all become fantastic ambassadors for this particular program, and it gives all of us so much joy each year to see the opportunity and to listen to the youth voice. And I hope what you've actually learnt over the last 12 months gives you encouragement to be leaders of your community now and in the future as well too, and continue to have a voice and influence your community as well too. And I look forward to seeing your names in leadership roles in the future as well too. I look forward to you participating in our advisory committees that the council does have on many other issues. And I look forward to the 2023 youth councillors to see if they can match or surpass what the 2022 youth councillors did. But this really is a great program. Congratulations to you all, and I look forward to hearing more voices of our youth in the future.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Yeah.
Maybe just a few quick words of encouragement more than anything else. Once again, as I've said before, I apologise that I have not had the engagement with you as perhaps others have, but it's not through a lack of interest, it's more so my work commitments. But I do thank you for putting yourself forward. Sometimes it's you know, a little intimidating, sometimes it's a little scary, but it's great that you've been able to put yourself forward and contributed to this program. But I think you would have got a lot out of it, and we've got a lot out of what you've done as well, and the input. One thing I've noticed over the past sort of 30 or 40 years that I've been involved in different leadership roles at work and other, is that you'll be surprised that through life how little amount of people actually want to be sitting in your position. So to have that strength and to be able to continue to put yourself forward is something that you will be appreciated for. So keep that courage and well done.
Councillor Contell. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I want to echo whatever all other councillors have said to you, Finn. Congratulations on your presentation tonight and your leadership throughout the year as Youth Councillor Mayor, and all to your fellow councillors to be congratulated on another successful year for the Youth Council. I know as a Brownville councillor, Councillor Sarah and myself certainly look forward to the mentoring programs. They're a challenge for the councillors and yourselves, I guess. You certainly test us, but they're always fun. So they're always something to look forward to. And whether it was an hour or even more than that sometimes, the time always went quickly, so which is always a good sign. So take care on your journey after this, and always strive to make a difference. So thank you.
Councillor Murray. Councillor Usher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and congratulations to all of you. I also echo what my colleagues have said already. I feel like I've missed out a little bit this year because my leave has coincided with a lot of the Councillor Connect mentoring sessions, which is unfortunate, but previous years, so much value has been received from that from our point of view as councillors, and I just hope that you have all also had a lot of value out of it. Finn, fantastic presentation tonight. Well done, really beautifully delivered and really hard-hitting points too. I found it incredibly validating that what you're seeking, so much of it matches what is, so we're on track, it seems, in the community plan. You've just given us some really good detail and some really real examples of it, which is terrific. I love the idea of identifying and finding and using local suppliers for sort of soft plastics to replace the red cycle. That's terrific. There's so much clever and creative, isn't there, in the Geelong region. If we can tap into that and use that, I think that's really absolutely what we're about, is going local at every opportunity. Particularly love and totally agree about the bike paths and the bike parks as well. That's been a passion, and we laugh often. My fellow Bellarine Ward councillors, Mason and Deputy and Mayor Sullivan, talking in our very first meeting as a group of 3 in 2017, hey, let's get some bike trails going, that'll be an easy win. And 5 years later, we're still trying really hard. So it is a fairly long haul, but I think, again, pardon the pun, we're on track and certainly got the attention of the officers. So your support and encouragement is really helpful because it adds weight to where we're going, because you are our future. So thank you again for all your efforts and your contribution to this council. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Usher. I'll just quickly add that my fellow councillors have spoken highly about this program, about what we get out of it immediately from the Youth Council. But I would like to add that we're at the stage right now where we're seeing past youth councillors, youth mayors and deputy mayors in the community, and every now and again you run into one of them, and they're always doing something amazing. They're always raising money for a charity, helping out community leaders in their own groups. So it just goes to show the amazing impact that this program has in assisting people, to give them encouragement to reach their potential and to really be active in our community. So it is an incredibly valuable program, and I'd like to thank everybody for their participating, because 80% of success is just showing up and putting your hand up and wanting to be a part of it. So well done to all of you. Councillor Mason to close.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. And so, youth councillors and youth mayor, you've seen overwhelming support and pleasure with the work that you've done this year, so thank you very much. And as having read the report in detail, I do note one thing as well, and that is thank you for observing and what can I say, for making it quite clear that you appreciate the work done by the officers as well. And that I do endorse that the officers have provided a really excellent environment so we can have good, robust discussions, healthy discussions. And I think it's been an excellently designed program, and we also acknowledge that you've thanked the officers for their good work as well. So with all in all, I wish you well in your future, and look forward to our next Youth Council, who will be in part guided by you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Thank you for your service. Item number 2 is dog control orders for land managed by Barwon Coast Committee of Management. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rasher, seconded. Councillor Mason. Councillor Rasher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report recommends that the Council considers community feedback following a 2-year trial of dog control orders at Ocean Grove Main Beach, and also seek authorisation to finalise the ongoing dog control orders on the Crown land managed by Barwon Coast Committee of Management. The recommendation here is to adopt the dog-free area as trialled in Year 2, while also further simplifying and improving the dog control orders. So there are 2 things going on. Firstly, it's to adopt nearly 1 kilometre of the main beach at Ocean Grove as dog-free. So that's the area out the front of the car park, the rotunda, the lookout, the surf club and the Dunes Cafe. In more formal terms, the dog-free area is between 13W, Hodgson Street Beach Access Stairs. So colloquially, if you head towards Point Lonsdale, it's the dog beach, and if you go the other way, it's the western end of the main beach promenade. So it's roughly 805 metres of beach that will be dog-free all year round. Secondly, the recommendation is fixing what is currently a problem for beach users and locals with dogs at other parts of the beach by allowing dogs back at the beach from the 1st of March rather than the 1st of May. Aligns with the rules at Surf Coast beaches and further down the Great Ocean Road. I think we all know that December, January, February is the summer period, the tourist season, the busy season at the beach, but by March the beaches are quiet. So this change is common sense. And there is huge demand for dog walking outside of the new year-round dog-free area on the main beach, of course, and this change with the seasonal stuff will increase opportunities for dog walking on those other areas of the beach managed by Barwon Coast. Signage would also be improved so that it is clear which sections of the beach are dog-free and which are not. The signage is currently very confusing. I even struggle to explain it to people when I look at the signs because they seem to change within about 10 steps. And it's also struck me that the dog on the signs looks rather like a police dog. It would be nice to see a happy-looking dog chasing a ball rather than a Doberman-looking dog straining at the end of a leash. I have made that suggestion, but we'll see how far that goes. Now, our council officers have recognised that this is a challenging issue because dog control orders often generate passionate views, and people are particularly passionate because the rules around dogs haven't been perceived as very fair nor very clear. And it is important to remember that currently dogs are not permitted on the vast majority of the very popular Ocean Grove beach area at all during the day from December right through to May. And I haven't actually mentioned the plovers, which means more than 5 kilometres of the beach between Point Lonsdale and Ocean Grove now also prohibits dogs off lead from August to April. So the window for dog walking has been getting smaller and smaller. But I do digress because the plovers fully deserve the space to try and breed successfully. So these orders allow for dogs to be back on the beach on lead at most other areas in the autumn months of March and April, when there are very few people on the beach doing anything other than, you guessed it, walking their dogs. And the orders also provide a dog-free section of the beach for those people preferring not to come across dogs at the beach at any time of year. The one imperfect exception is dogs who are companion animals. We do have a distinction between assistance animals and companion animals that I would like to explore a little further. Certainly assistance animals are permitted in the dog-free area, but at the moment companion animals are not. So that's probably something that we could explore a little further. But for these particular orders, we can have a look at that later. Right now, it's impossible to please all of the people all of the time, but it is possible to have a crack at a good compromise, and I think this is it. And I thank the officers very heartily for coming to visit the beach to understand the feedback from the community and from us very passionate local councillors. It's greatly appreciated, and I think what they've come up with is a really good compromise. Thanks.
Councillor Asher. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you, Councillor Asher. I think you've said it, most of it, at least tonight. So certainly the search for the best possible dog orders has been going on for some years, and I, for one, have reached the point of finding dog orders a rather tiresome discussion. And I'd like to add that I've owned dogs, Labradors, Kelpies and Border Collies in the past and know what companionship dogs can provide. I know what it is to love a dog. I also have the experience of a loved, family-friendly and gentle dog uncharacteristically biting a 5-year-old little girl. She was scarred for life. That dog had never been aggressive before. Equally, as a farmer and environmentalist, I now have precious niches on my farm where birds nest, quail and masked lapwings in the grass, fairy wrens and fantails in low bushes, ducks, swans and purple-headed swamp hens in the wetlands. Unleashed dogs are not welcome on my farm. And so, as councillors, we've spent many hours and officers over recent years pursuing the best mix of dog orders. We've tried hard to satisfy the needs of all, including the disabled with companion dogs and those people who don't like dogs or fear them. We've tried hard to get to this point, councillors and officers, and through community engagement. I think we've reached a very good solution. It's not the only solution, but it is a very good solution. As I say, there's no one best set of dog orders. We have to decide on one set. People now need to accept and comply. And I'd just like to add here that there are some people in our community who will refuse to comply no matter what the rules are. These people are abusing the privilege of living in a community while accepting all the other benefits of community living. They're selfish and egocentric, and I support strong enforcement in response to these antisocial attitudes, and I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any councillors wish to speak on this item? Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Mayor, look, I'm going to support the motion, but I'm still uncomfortable that we're actually banning dogs on the beach. I know this is tried to be a solution that is not supported by Barwon Coast. It has some support in the Ocean Grove community, and there's a lot of community members that just don't want to have their freedom taken away to walk with their dogs. And even tonight we've been presented with a question about companion dogs and what impact that does make for those people. So in fact, if the letter of the law is interpreted as being adopted tonight, if you do have a companion dog, you won't be able to walk along the beach with them. So in fact, there's issues about access and inclusion about the beach. And I hope that what our officers do is that the challenge from the men is, yes, we've set this framework, but the challenge for them is to actually look at our policies about access and inclusion and try and find a way forward for companion dogs to actually be able to walk along the beach under these restrictions. Because it'd be very sad for me if we're restricting access to people who actually do need companion dogs to actually use the beach area. And I think there may be a clever and creative way to respond to that, and I hope the officers can actually find that the simple stance of saying all dogs should be banned doesn't sit well with me. As I said, I'll support the motion because a lot of work has been put into it, but the challenge now for our team is to try and see how they can accommodate that issue. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just seek clarification from the officers in relation to that about companion dogs? My understanding is that, with guide dogs or similar, actually are allowed on the beaches.
That's an assistance animal, not a companion animal. There's a distinction between the two.
So, okay, so I understand what you're saying there, but so I'm thinking more about perhaps children with autism, for example, who have companion dogs, and they have them, with them quite regularly. So we're saying that they would not be allowed to take their dogs on the beach under those circumstances. So, okay. All right, that's a really interesting point that is raised, and one that I support further investigation of. Thank you.
Councillor Harwood. I'll just pause a moment for clarification on that issue.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I'll take some of this question on notice, but guide dogs and assistant dogs are allowed in dog prohibited areas as defined under the Domestic Animal Management Act, so that there's an exemption for guide dogs and assistance dogs as defined under the Domestic Animal Management Act.
Do we have the definition of assistant dog?
In the Act, so I don't have that information to hand with me, but I think for that example, it's given that people with a disability that have an assistance dog, that they would be permitted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further councillors wish to speak on this item? If not, I'll throw back to Councillor Asher to close.
Mr. Mayor, I think if Councillor Nelson was here, he'd probably have a few words because I think he regularly exercises his dog at Ocean Grove Beach. I do note that when we have a photo op for councillors with their dogs, there is a mad and very proud rush among the group to show off their fur children. So I think we do, generally speaking, have quite supportive dog owners within this group. There are some really interesting statistics from the community feedback, and I'm aware that the focus around dog stories, particularly the ones that appear in the papers, are often a little sensationalistic and generally negative and sometimes on the extreme end of popular opinion. But I found there's some really quite positive points in the stats, including the fact that dog owners tend to prefer lesser restraint on dogs than non-dog owners. Now, this may seem obvious, but the professional dog trainer that we use to ensure that we trained our dog properly actually said leads should only ever be used for the safety of the dog, and otherwise the dog should be effectively controlled off lead. So that was really interesting from a professional dog trainer. The 111 responses in support of dog prohibition commonly cited previous negative encounters with dogs and fear of dogs. And again, this is not surprising. And a brilliant suggestion from a resident was that we should be promoting friendly dog beaches just as much as we promote dog-friendly beaches. And I thought that was a really good suggestion as well. So just that idea of friendly dogs being somehow rewarded or acknowledged or promoted. Also, feedback indicated that nearly 3/4 of the respondents who would prefer dogs to be allowed at the main beach, for those people, dogs are clearly part of the family and the beach experience for most of the people who did the survey. And while the presence of dogs can negatively impact beach experiences for some people, it is also very clear that dogs are important, as has been pointed out by my colleagues, for people's health, well-being, and I will also add safety of their owners as well. There's nothing like having a dog with you if you're running in the dark early in the morning or after dusk. So there is some good dog news, and I do admit I'm biased. I do love animals, and we've invested a lot of time and money training our dog, and I think that as much as possible, animals do deserve to be free. So I'd like to quickly thank the team, in particular Alistair and Jackie, for their very hard work, their patience with our robust feedback, and for delivering an excellent recommendation that strikes the right balance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Asher, for closing. I will speak slightly, although it's not prudent. I believe this information is prudent, and Assistance Dogs Australia defines assistance dog as a generic term for a guide, hearing or service dog specifically trained to perform identifiable physical tasks and behaviours to assist a person with a disability in order to aid quality of life and or independence. Assistance dogs are covered under many legislative access laws for public areas, and assistance dogs are not to be confused with a therapy, emotional support or companion dog, which are not required to undertake a public access test as an assistance dog is. I believe that's printed information, so apologies for speaking after you, Councillor Asher.
The signage actually says that. It doesn't just say no dogs
We can
allowed
follow
between
that
a
up.
certain time. Yeah.
All right. With that, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Moving on now to item 3, Avalon Corridor Strategy. Moved by Councillor Aiken, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Harwood. Thank you. Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan. Look, tonight we've actually got 2 significant planning structure documents behind it. Coming up. The first one is actually the Avalon Growth Corridor, which essentially is a employment precinct and a environmental protection precinct. And the second one is actually a significant residential strategy. The Avalon corridor actually is so big that it covers 30,000 square metres. 30,000 hectares, I apologise. And it covers the city of Wyndham and the city of Greater Geelong. This strategy is actually a 3-party stakeholder, the city of Wyndham, the city of Greater Geelong and the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning. So it is of state significance what's actually being adopted tonight. What this corridor and strategy actually does is enshrines the green wedge between Melbourne and Geelong. It protects the grasslands and Wadawurrung cultural significant land holdings that exist in our northern parts of Geelong. It retains our existing economic and transport connections that exist in the north. It establishes a new one in terms of Bay West, which Bay West will be the new major port in the next 30 years on Port Phillip Bay and for Melbourne and Geelong. It also protects the Western Treatment Plant Zone area and its unique positioning that that has for Melbourne. It also supports Avalon Airport's expansion in terms of its ambition that it has as well too. And importantly, it establishes the engine growth for employment for the Geelong region for the next 30 years. And an example of that is the MAB development, which if we adopt this strategy tonight, that's a $5 billion investment into our local community in terms of employment and opportunities that exist in the Avalon Growth Corridor area. Importantly, it also defines the residential boundaries that we have in Lara and Little River, and it actually protects those boundaries so that the farmland and other significant usage that now occurs on that land out there is protected from further urban residential expansion. So this is a significant piece of work that Council is adopting tonight. It has been out to public consultation. It has been jointly collaborated with the City of Wyndham and the Department of Water, Environment and Land and Planning. An important point as well too, the significance of this proposal, council officers are recommending that the Victorian Planning Authority actually be the authority for establishing the precinct plans under this strategy. And that reflects the significance that this land holding has for Geelong and more importantly for the state. And I do encourage all councillors to have a look at it in detail, to understand that this is actually probably, apart from the North-Western Growth Zone, the most significant planning strategy adoption that this council is going to make for the next 30 years. And it will have significantly transform and protect the North and our jobs that we do need to cater for the population growth that Geelong is anticipated to have going forward in the future. Nothing further to add at this point, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's pretty well covered, but I'll just make stress the major corridor area there. Obviously, Avalon Airport and what that means to Geelong's future, and also Wyndham's and the state in general. We've seen what a second international airport can potentially bring. Unfortunately, that affected for a number of reasons, whether it's COVID or other issues, but we still see the fight going on for that to come back and for airlines to be attracted to Avalon, because quite simply, as the development grows around that area and the diversity of it will only be further attractive to airlines that want to come in, and particularly for industries to export their commodities. So really critical. I think we saw Bonza Airlines come in recent times, and the point of difference for Bonza is it goes to regional cities more than capital cities. So that is a unique point of difference that Avalon will offer to Victorian travellers who wish to travel around Australia. So that alone makes it a sort of standalone, unique offering to our community. So the corridor strategy, again, is becoming well documented, and I don't think we can underestimate or understate the importance to our region for employment, for the economics that will go with that for the long-term future. Thank you.
Councillor Harwood. Any other councillors to speak? Councillor Quintal.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, there's a lot of really important initiatives here, and as Councillor Aitken has suggested, it really is important. I don't think we'll probably appreciate how important this is until decades to come. Just one example is just how important it is to protect the green break between Geelong and Werribee and the green wedge. Just as an example, in '94, I drove from Sao Paulo to Rio de Janeiro as a young guy, and I thought, when I get out of town, I'll stop, because this town is just crazy. There was no break between Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Was just infill all the way you could go, of millions of people living there. And that's what can happen if you don't have initiatives like this between Melbourne and Geelong. That could happen very quickly. We can see that that's already happening. So I think it's really important to have those natural breaks between major towns and cities, and Geelong certainly is that. So I commend that. Very important that we continue to promote the importance and the enhancements of our transport networks between, I know it says here, the economic and transport connections between Geelong and Werribee. Yes, that's important, but even more so between Geelong and Melbourne. And we will need to be lockstep with the state government, and we will need to continue to promote, as we did previous councils, the importance of a east-west link. Whatever that may look like in the future, it's still extremely important. I joked with John Aaron today that I was late because I don't have the east-west link built yet. But that is still very important, as are our rail links and everything else. Our Achilles heel will be poor connectivity between us and Melbourne. We see it now. You have one car break down and productivity stops in Victoria, or at least in Metro Victoria as we see it. So some great initiatives in here, particularly around creating employment precinct in that north, and really exposing and exploring the opportunities that we have in that area. So certainly supportive of this report.
Councillor Quintal. If the councillors speak, I'll throw back to Deputy Mayor Aitken to close.
Thank you very much. My only other two comments are to just reiterate that point. Look, we welcome living next to the metropolis of Melbourne, but we don't want to be part of the metropolis of Melbourne. We have our own identity, and it is called Geelong, and this planning strategy actually enshrines that. And the other thing I wish to acknowledge is our planning team, our strategic planning team. This project has actually been around for about 5 years in terms of its current status, and before that as well too. So I acknowledge our current manager of strategic planning, Jess Hurst, for the work that she's done on this particular project to get it to this stage that it is now, and her team. It has been a significant amount of work, and to actually have to engage with the Victorian Planning Authority, to actually have to engage with the City of Wyndham, to actually have to engage with the State Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, has taken significant resources, but I think the results that we're seeing tonight with the document presented before us justifies that work and effort. So to Jess, her predecessors, because it's been around such a long time that it even was started before Jess, and the strategic planning team, thank you for what you have brought forward to us, and I look forward to the first bits of soil getting turned and actually creating the job opportunities that we need in Geelong from this new planning strategy. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Now, item 4 on the agenda is Precinct Structure Planning Program. Councillor Contell has declared conflict of interest and will be leaving the meeting. All right, we'll continue this item. I have a mover in Councillor Harwood and a seconder in Councillor Mason. Councillor Harwood.
I won't be speaking on this one when there's an amendment that Councillor Aiken would like to put forward, so we'll move straight to that.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. I do have an amendment that I'd like to move, if there's a seconder.
Seconder for that motion, for that amendment to be heard? Thank you, Councillor Asher. Deputy Mayor Aiken, you may now speak on your proposed amendment.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan. Look,
just one moment. Is it going up?
We're currently having technical difficulties.
Oh, are we? Okay. Sorry, I wasn't aware of that. Look, this is a bit unusual. I would appreciate the Director, Gareth Smith's comments on this amendment, if that's okay.
Yep, absolutely. We'll let Deputy Mayor Aiken speak to it first, and then the seconder, and then I'll actually, on that. One second. Yeah. And then I will actually invite up Gareth Smith to speak briefly as well, should it be the case.
I understand in front of the councillors the amendment, I'll have to read it out because it can't actually be put in the screen just at the present time. So if councillors refer to the blue document that's actually got red writing on it, and it has items 4 and 5 under the amended officer recommendation. So item 4 is request 6 monthly updates and an annual report to council on the progress of the precinct structure plans and commuted timelines. And then item 5 is request the Chief Executive Officer to provide advice to council on the following 3 points. The long-term infrastructure demands approach to facilitate the timely and coordinated delivery of infrastructure, especially public transport, and strategies to minimise the project management and financial risks to council for the rollout of the growth areas. Point 5.2, the role of federal and state government and other parties in providing funding and designing and supporting advocacy strategies to see the timely and efficient delivery of the essential infrastructure and public transport for the growth areas. And point 5.3, we request the Chief Executive Officer to give us advice about elevating and considering whether future precinct plans should be delivered by the council by itself and with the Victorian Planning Authority, or by the Victorian Planning Authority by itself.
Mayor Aiken, you may not speak to it.
If you would like me to speak to it, look, we deferred this at our last meeting, and part of the reason for that was we wanted to assess the developers who were actually contacting us about this particular project, and it is significant. After the Avalon Growth Corridor strategy, this is the most significant planning document that we're going to see as councillors for the next 30 years. This actually sets the blueprint for the 110,000 population growth that the council actually is envisaging in our north and western growth zones. And what I've attempted to do here in consultation with officers and also with the planning chair, who is an apology tonight, is try to come up with a amendment that actually reflects the significance of this decision that council's making. The significance of this decision means we do have to have improved accountability to reflect the significance of this planning strategy. We do have to be better informed about what's happening with this strategy. And we do have to establish reporting and review processes so that the councillors are actually kept informed about what's happening. And now that is something that I think is very important for us to consider. What we're actually saying is that yes, we endorse our planning officers to actually undertake the precinct structure plans instead of the Victorian Planning Authority. We consider to add the McCann's Lane and Merrill Warp precinct with tonight's decision, which is different to what our original position was as well too as the council. And we actually are also saying that we do want 6 monthly updates. This is one of the most important strategic planning processes that the council is going to be undertaking. So the amendment's asking for 6 monthly updates, and then an annual report actually comes to this council. So it actually comes to the chamber. So the community actually gets to see on an annual basis what we are actually doing in terms of the precinct structure plans and this significant growth area. What we're asking in the second part of the amendment is that the Chief Executive Officer provide us some advice, because we actually have got longer term infrastructure demands associated with establishing these precinct structure plans. We do need to understand what public transport is needed for link this new area with the existing area. And the recommendation here isn't changing what the officers have said. The recommendation and amendment is elevating this council's belief that public transport and infrastructure is significant in the decision that we're making for the precinct structure plan. And we actually do need to understand, because I don't, and I don't think my council colleagues on the table tonight understand what role the state and federal government is playing to assist us with public transport and infrastructure. So the amendment is asking to actually look at that as well too. And finally, the amendment's actually asking us, let's do the planning ourselves first, but let's evaluate if that's actually the right way to be doing it going forward, because this is only the first of 5 precinct structure plans. There's about another 10 on top of that as well too. And as we've just seen with the decision we've made for the Avalon Grove Corridor, we've actually said the Victorian Planning Authority was the appropriate organisation to be undertaking those precinct structure plans. I wish to give our strategic planning team the opportunity to have a go, but I also want to protect us as the council group that if we do need to invite the VPA at a future date, we don't rule that out. And that's what this amendment's actually attempting to do. It is actually improving accountability, it's actually improving reporting, and it's actually giving us as councillors, we're elevating what our interest is in this project, as opposed to just saying, officers, here's your stamp, go off and do it. This is actually a very significant project risk and financial risk to council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aitken. Councillor Usher, you wish to speak?
Thank you. Yes, look, I think Councillor Aitken has summed up the detail. For me, the overarching points are it does increase the accountability, it does increase a manner of flexibility. I think we all would like to stay close with the VPA and the possibility of the VPA taking a greater role. It would certainly limit the conversation through us as councillors from developers and between officers. I think it would just give it a greater amount of transparency and accountability. So I'm fully supportive of the amendment. I think it just provides that detail we needed. Thanks.
Councillor Aitken. Councillor Murray has asked that the Director also speak briefly on this item. Given the importance of this item, and I believe there's consensus that people would like to hear from this briefly, I'm more than willing to entertain. Please, Gareth.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just as Councillor Aitken explained, certainly we've officers that work with some of the drafting of the alternate, so over the last few weeks, but particularly more so today. And as is highlighted really from point 4 onwards is the alternate, or the additions that have been added through to that, which overall certainly officers are comfortable with as well. The aspects, a lot of the aspects within the work that's proposed is consistent with how we would normally approach and work with council anyway on such a major project in this regard. So we're certainly very comfortable with it. Obviously always supporting transparency and the reporting on that, on particular major projects like this. Certainly in regards to the VPA comments, as well as councillors beware the last project or the last paper that was just considered, of course officers and councillors support the role of the VPA. So it's something as officers we're always considering different methods of delivery and those sort of work as well, and this is no different. Of course, as you'll be aware, it was I think April, May we briefed council on similar options before on that as well. So we'll always continue different ways of actually approaching how we do this and the PSPs. We do have a series, obviously, more to come after these three, if council endorses this as well. And of course, we've also got another one at Armstrong Creek to do as well. So I guess it would be worth considering the future on how we look at the broader growth areas as well, because there's other PSPs coming in other areas as well in time as well. But overall, we're comfortable with what's been proposed up.
Thank you, Gareth. I'll now go around the table for other councillors who wish to speak on the amendment we have before us. Are any councillors wish to speak? There's no right of reply with the proposed amendment, so I'll table this, the vote for this to become the substantive if it is successful. If not, we go back to the original moved by Councillor Harwood. All those in favour of Deputy Mayor Aiken's amendment? Those against? Becomes this substantive. Councillor Harwood, are you comfortable to move what is now the substantive motion?
It's moved by Councillor Aiken, in all honesty. I'm happy to second, but it's his amendment.
Absolutely. Well, if it comes with this, I'll ask for a move of what is now the substantive motion. Councillor Aiken, are you comfortable to move that?
With Councillor Harwood's blessing, I would like to do that, so thank you. Yeah.
So what do you have? How about you second it? Thank you. Deputy Mayor Aiken, please.
I actually don't really have too much more to add. I thank the Director of Planning and Investment for his comments that he has made. I think this strengthens what is a very significant decision that Council's making tonight. Yes, there are some losers in this, like the the Adelaide Brighton group wanted to actually add their precinct structure plan into the initial ones we've adopted tonight, but the officer's advice has been quite strong that we're not ready for it, and our appetite, we've got enough on our plate with what we're actually presenting tonight in terms of the number of precinct plans that will be undertaken and the timeframes that are put in place. I do look forward to the reports that we received. I do look forward to the advice from the CEO about how we manage our financial and project management risk associated with this, because it is extremely significant what we're actually doing. We are deciding how 110,000 additional people are going to live in Geelong, and importantly, how we connect the existing 240,000 people in Geelong with that 110,000 people. And we can't do it alone. The state and federal government do need to support us. We are helping them by having an extra 110,000 people live and move into our area in Geelong. And we do call on the state and federal government to assist us with that responsibility and actually provide financial and planning support and assistance to make sure that we can fulfil the original planning principles that were established for the Northern and Western Growth Zones, which were to establish a clever and creative planning environment for our 110,000 new population. But we do not have the financial resources to do it independently ourselves as council. We also do not have the internal resources to be able to deliver it without state and federal government support. So I thank the councillors for supporting the amendment, and I think it is good decision making what we're actually proposing tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just, I guess, draw attention to what I consider, I guess, the heart of it, which is 3.1, 3.2, which is in relation to, as has been alluded to, the funding that's going to be required to actually roll out this PSP to a community satisfaction whereby, potentially 110,000 people in that precinct, and one of the greatest threats to that is the connectivity and the ability to move around that precinct and to interact, visit family and friends, get kids to school, get kids to sport, etc. All those things we take for granted. We have a greenfield site and an opportunity to do that well. But with that comes, I guess, the critical aspects of public transport, which we know we have issues with, whether it's buses or trains or similar. We need to look at the long-term future, how we're going to move people around, and whether that's on autonomous transport or whatever that might look like in the future. We need to be at the forefront of that technology and that availability of putting that technology into new communities. And obviously, we're talking about some very significant bridges, which will have obviously big impacts on environmentally, but also from a connectivity perspective as well. So there is a huge amount of work ahead of the community to get it right, but also to make sure that the community accept what is proposed. If we don't, well, it may end up as a suburb that just struggles along to actually be taken up by the community if we don't do that. But I just can't overstress the connectivity factors in how we set our roadways, our shared trails, our rail aspect, and our public transport on the smaller scale, whether it's buses, autonomous transport, whatever it might look like. If we get that right, we'll be halfway there. Thank you.
Noted. Councillor Harwood. Any other councillors wish to speak on this item? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I just want to acknowledge the work that's been done by the planning team over the years in lead up to where we are tonight. We're certainly at perhaps closer to the pointy end than we've ever been, and that's why it's in the chamber tonight. So I want to acknowledge the work done by the team to date, and I also want to thank Gareth Smith too for his words tonight in relation to the amendment, and thanks to Councillor Aiken in relation to it. It's certainly it's a culmination of many hours as councillors being briefed on this, and to be where we are tonight really is a significant occasion for this council. So just want to acknowledge that and just endorse Councillor Harwood's words in relation to the absolute significant transport infrastructure that is required if you're down on the land and you look back up over to where the top of Church Street is and think of what's required to be built to come from the top of Church Street down into this precinct. It'll be absolutely incredible and an enormous challenge for this city and for the state and the federal government that funding will be required for that connectivity. So it's great that we're here and acknowledge all those that are involved to date, and we look forward to what's coming with these planning programs.
Councillor Murray. Any other councillors wish to speak? I also acknowledge the great work done in this project. These are massive undertakings of work which go a long way to providing for the community, and also echo the words of my fellow councillors about transport. Today I spoke with the State Member of Parliament for about an hour on our transport connections from our new development growth areas into Geelong, our north-south, our east-west connections. So we must always be present in that. Although this is something that's incredibly important to us, there is goodwill from the state government to work on this as well. With that, I'll throw back to Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan. Look, Councillor Murray's stolen my thunder because I was actually going to do the same closing as I did with the Avalon precinct, but I wish to expand it a bit more. The Northern Western Growth Zones first came out of the G21 work, which was about 7 to 8 years ago now, to actually try to look at how Geelong could actually protect the Bellarine and understand that the Armstrong Creek area could not and should not have any further growth in terms of residential expansion. So there was a significant piece of work that was undertaken, which the council participated on, to actually look at, well, where should the urban growth future be for Geelong? And out of that work came the North and Western growth zones that we now have. And I congratulate Jess Hurst for the work that she's done up until this point of time, and in fact she's going to have a hell of a lot of work going forward after tonight to establish the precinct structure plans. But I think it's important to also acknowledge Nate Anson, who was the predecessor that actually established the clever and creative framework at which we're adopting tonight. So Jess's predecessor, this was a project of passion for him, and there are many people that have actually contributed towards the decision that we're making tonight, which really is allowing the developers to go forward and exercise a commercial vision of the planning vision that we have to have a clever and creative 100,000 new population area in the city of Greater Geelong.
Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, I'll put item forward to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? The item is carried. Oh, yes, good idea. We wait for Councillor Contell to join us. Whilst I will acknowledge that the gallery is empty, I just want to thank the 20 live stream viewers we have online at the moment who are watching these items with bated breath. Right, with that, item 5 is Community Safety Framework 2022 to 2026. Ask for mover in Councillor Maloney. Thank you. No? And seconder in Councillor Murray for item 5, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I'd like to recommend that Council endorse this framework, which is not only a visually appealing and a very accessible document, but it also is a framework that puts together a bunch of community engagement that's been undertaken with the view in mind to maintain, define and really set out what we're going to be doing as a city and a community to increase the safety of our constituency. So the city has undertaken engagement, and I really applaud everyone who has been involved with the community consultation with respect to this. We've received 128 submissions for the stage 1 of this engagement, and the framework has been building on that to establish understanding of how we should really engage with our community safety programs, how we should build initiatives and projects that add value to our various wards in areas that are problematic, the things that we see visually, the feelings that we have when we enter into, let's say, the CBD at night, or perhaps we're walking down a street that might have visual graffiti, things like that, or perhaps safety when it comes to things like maintaining footpaths. So the Community Safety Framework is a draft to go out for consideration, and it also indicates some of the larger big pieces that will form these programs. So it outlines a few very pertinent areas that we are, as a councillor group, wanting to focus on, including gender and social equity, to make sure that we bring everyone in our beautiful city of Greater Geelong up to the standard of living and feeling of safety that we deserve. Also, it talks about taking proactive measures to ensure safety and make sure that people feel safe and are safe when they're hanging out in our wonderful region. But I'll leave it for our other councillors to comment on the framework, and I'll close. Thank you.
Councillor Maloney. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think Councillor Maloney's covered that pretty well, and I've got nothing further to add on that.
Thank you. Other councillors wish to comment? Councillor Maloney to close.
Yep, quick, thank you. We have a whole bunch of proactive measures and evidence-based I guess, research to support some of these frameworks. So really looking forward to seeing how the community engagement infiltrates this framework and what people think of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. Item number 6, Public Tree Management Policy, a very important one in our community. Can I have a mover in Councillor Maloney and a seconder in Deputy Mayor Aiken? Councillor Maloney, please.
Double whammy. Okay, thank you, Mayor Sullivan. This report recommends the adoption of the public tree management policy. We've had a significant response from our community as to how we should manage our trees, and this update really distinguishes the management of trees that are in the public realm. This differentiates from those that are on private land, and we've had a couple of emails come in this afternoon about those particular issues. So we're wanting to, as a council, increase the amount of urban tree canopy that we have in order to mitigate the effects of heat island. Part of council's role is to create footpaths for our constituents to walk and wheel and wheelchair and scooter around. But that also increases that heat island effect, as does the increased asphalting of roads. So we want to make sure that we mitigate not only heat island to ensure we're cooling Geelong, but also the framework sets out the way that we manage trees, the way that we consult with arborists and review the way that we plant and the varieties that we plant as well, including on new reserves. So I'll leave it for my fellow councillors to chat about, but we're wanting to recommend this is adopted tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
One of the insights when you're the chair of city services is you get a monthly report from our arborists. And Sarah Priestley and her team are amazing. And in fact, this tree management policy is actually their passion of love. And Sarah has done a fantastic job to try to improve this particular policy. The reality is it caused confusion in the community the first time that we did it because people thought it covers private land. In fact, council can't have a tree management policy over private land. We can consider some overlays and things in the future, and I think that's where we're heading with some things as well too. But this is actually about public trees and elevating them to a significant protection basis, and having a clear and transparent manner in which we actually look at those trees. And I should say, on a personal level, I want to thank Sarah as well too, because I was concerned about an aspect of where mature trees could impact on our community infrastructure. And the policy has been changed with the support of the officers to actually put in a new clause. And that new clause is 5.5 on page 9, which it says, in relation to the removal of trees to facilitate the development of community infrastructure on council-owned or managed land, consideration will be given as to whether community engagement in accordance with council's community engagement policy should be carried out. Now, the officers assured me that that would happen anyway, but it's really encouraging that it's now been put into the tree management policy, so it's transparent to members of the community and especially those stakeholders that are actually concerned about what is more powerful, the mature tree and its protection or the community infrastructure that may possibly be built on that particular site. So the policy is actually making it quite clear that council will consider proper engagement under our community engagement policy, and I thank Sarah for adding that to the tree policy. And as I've said, this is a labour of love for them. One of the joys in the last couple of weeks for me was to go up to the Geelong Botanic Gardens and see the Victorian Tree Climbing Championships, which Sarah led and was actually brought to Geelong. And it was fantastic to see all those arborists. It was fantastic to see how quickly they actually went up a tree and came down a tree, and how they rescued people out of trees. But the public tree management policy is deserving of all the councillors to actually read it and understand what it actually does mean and the impact it will make on our public trees in Geelong.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Any other councillors wish to comment? If not, back to Councillor Maloney to close.
Thanks, Mayor Sullivan. Just with respect to this public tree management policy, the respondents to the community feedback and engagement was really eye-opening, and I really applaud anyone who's putting in their 2 cents as to how we should shape these type of policies. We get a lot of inquiries and complaints and everything between, about things like tree roots, vegetation removals, excessive tree pruning, management of native trees and significant trees, the discussion of why certain trees are planted in certain places, why evergreens not deciduous. These are all really valuable things to discuss. And I think that sets out in this policy quite well as to what we do and don't do. But one thing I also wanted to perhaps put in the minds of the 20 people who are viewing this online and the well, I was going to say one person, but that's a security guard. The people who may be listening in later on, is the need to perhaps shake it up. A lot of people are talking about exotic versus native trees. Exotic trees are just as cool. Why don't we plant fruiting trees that we can have a munch on and have a snack as we're walking through the beautiful city of Greater Geelong? I know some of them exist. I won't tell you where they are because you'll steal all my plums. But I would really implore that perhaps this, the way that we plant trees includes fruit for our native fauna and also me. Thank you.
Councillor Maloney. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item 7 on the agenda is Community Life Council Advisory Committees, the annual report, moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Maloney. Councillor Mason, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Of course, council advisory committees do play a really significant role in supporting councillors, in providing advice on community and priorities within their respective portfolios. Indeed, they're really an important element in deliberative community engagement. They're a sounding board for community aspirations and sentiment and current social values and political trends, where difficult themes should be discussed and resolved. And so through careful discussion and listening, barriers to participation and inclusion in community and civic life are identified, and our goals of social equity, access, diversity and inclusion are more likely to be achieved. We've got 7 advisory committees at this point in time, and I happen to be chair of 2 of those committees, Mr Mayor, one of which is the Killinjit Aboriginal Advisory Committee, and I'm pleased to advise that there's some achievements, some really wonderful achievements that committee's made this year in providing advice to council in regard to community conversations regarding how January 26 might be improved, Australia Day, and supporting another really wonderful milestone was the support for the Uluru Statement from the Heart. Indeed, also an annual reconciliation of digital arts project in partnership with the Torch program. The Torch program is a Victorian First Nation program to support men and women in the correction system. And I happen to be a proud owner of a couple of paintings from that Torch program. There's a couple of other really important things to mention. NAIDOC Week events, a virtual tour of the Geelong region with the Wadawurrung Traditional Owners Aboriginal Corporation and the Wathaurong Aboriginal Cooperative. Many other things too numerous to mention tonight. And so there's a lot of work to do next year as well, analysing feedback from the consultation regarding January 26. They're reviewing the terms of reference. It's important that the committee has a desire to have a co-chair, and we hope to have that next year. Providing advice on the next Reconciliation Action Plan, how we deal with, this plan's called Innovate, and how we can best introduce and support treaty and truth-telling in the local context. As I say, there was too numerous to mention all of the achievements, but as well, I've also chaired the Multicultural Action Plan Committee, and it's also achieved quite a number of milestones. It's advised, certainly advised on the implementation of this plan, advised connected and shared information and resources with culturally and linguistically diverse communities regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, restrictions and vaccination. It's provided information for the city's community grants and other grant opportunities for the CALD community groups, and promoted education, training and employment opportunities for the CALD community groups. Once again, too numerous to mention all the things that have been done. And of course, we're looking forward to the work that will be done next year as well. Now, I'll leave it up to other councillors that might like to speak in terms of the advisory committees they've been involved with, and understanding that Councillor Mansfield's not able to be here tonight, and she's been a great contributor to these committees as well. And I'll leave it at this for this point in time.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Maloney.
Thanks, Mayor Sullivan, and I feel quite at home seconding this in replacement of the other red-headed Dr. Councillor. Poor substitute. Hope we can see her again soon. I just wanted to query that the Heritage Advisory Committee and the Rural and Peri-Urban Advisory Committee are not indicated in this report. Is there a rationale for that?
I can answer that later.
Okay, cool. Because I just wanted to acknowledge their contributions to our portfolios. This has been a really huge body of work that we celebrated last week with an absolute ton of finger food and chats and laughs. So I really wanted to commend the immense contribution that the advisory committees make to council. We are a small bunch of individuals from, let's face it, not a very varied background. We're all very privileged to be here, and we get and seek advice from our wonderful committees who have much more varied and different backgrounds that can contribute to things like policy development, the things that go in and out of council's purview and peripherals. Also, with respect to the Women in Community Life Advisory Committee, which I'm very proud to chair, this informs the things that we do for a gender equity plan and the International Women's Day celebrations, which include the Women in Community Life Awards, which is one of my favourite days of the year, to be honest, even better than Christmas. I also have been really lucky to see the body of work and the integration of this work within our community. These committees don't just talk with us in our meetings over a couple of hours, but they go off into their community and spread the word and talk about the things that are going on at council, the initiatives, and essentially help to broaden and amplify the work that we're doing for whatever, better or worse, at least the work that council does and the work that the community members contribute is not only amplified but shared around, and it educates people as to what civic life and local democracy looks like. So I really commend this report and the massive amount of achievement that has been evolving throughout these committees with respect to things like access and inclusion, diversity, social policy development, and just creating a better city for all of us to live in. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Any other councillors wish to comment? With Councillor Mason to close.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you also, Councillor Belinda, for your inputs. And of course, we do have some other committees that are associated with community life. And I misspoke before because we do have more than 7 committees, but the ones we're talking to at the moment are associated with community life. And there's 2 or 3 other committees that we haven't mentioned. There's the Affordable Social Housing Advisory Committee, which has been very capably chaired by Councillor Mansfield and supported by Councillor Aitken. And they've advised on and reviewed on actions that, about the transfer of council-owned land for social housing. But social housing is really such a big subject. It's really, really so important for us to achieve social equity, and that's one of the mediums through we might achieve that. So that's an important committee. And the Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee, also chaired by Councillor Aitken and deputy with Councillor Maloney. So there's been great contributions there for access and inclusion, and we had a very excellent function in Wariki Nyal only a week ago, where all of those committees were really well represented, and Councillor Aitken and Councillor Maloney also attended that. There's one other committee we didn't mention, which is the Youth Council, although they've had a pretty heavy presence here tonight, and I do acknowledge that Deputy Youth Mayor Angel McKay really spoke with great presence and dignity only a week ago. Now, there's two other committees that I'm aware of that are not a part of tonight's agenda. I just said I'd mention that, and it's certainly we do appreciate the work done by the communities. Got to finish here, but I'll go quickly if you don't mind. The Rural and Peri-Urban Advisory Committee has been going for 5 years now, and they've been really hanging in there and making a great, consistent contribution. And the Heritage Advisory Committee, which is currently chaired by Councillor Murray, lost his name for a moment. Councillor Murray, I did chair that at one stage, and I know the excellent contributions made by those. I did speak to Gareth recently, and I think we'll try and integrate all of these reports in the future. So I thank everybody for their good work on this, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. With that, put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. Item 8 is our Community Plan Quarterly Report, September 2022, moved by Councillor Contell and seconded by Councillor Asher. Councillor Contell, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, our quarterly plan or quarterly report on our community plan is really our strategic document, as we understand, which gives us direction on the initiatives that we, as a council, focus on over our 4-year period. These are being documented as social, economic and environmental sustainability. It is supported by a budget and also an action plan, and there are 64 actions reported upon in our community plan that we have in front of us. At the end of September, 57 actions were on track, so about 89% of the actions that we're working on are on track. However, there's 2 actions that were not started, and there's also 2 actions that need improvement. And of the ones that were completed, was a feasibility study for a program that makes recommendations on how to deliver a safe and inclusive space for young people within Central Geelong. Also a business event Geelong marketing program, and also an online portal for community lodge valuation objections. The 2 that weren't started were commence planning for a new residential strategy for Central Geelong and develop a formal and centralised health, safety and wellbeing program. There's a myriad of excellent initiatives in here. However, there's certainly still a lot of work to be done. Some of the ones that I feel are worthy of note, and of course there's many more that other councils will talk to, but in terms of sustainable growth and environment, I think a couple of the ones that are extremely important are meeting our future housing needs, which has been quite a significant topic of discussion for us as in this council over the last couple of years. We touched on the next one with some of the other reports, particularly the Avalon Corridor, which is meeting the future transport needs, equally as important for us. And then one of our residents spoke to us about waste management earlier on, and one of the initiatives that we're working on is reducing the impact of waste. Equally, in terms of our strategic direction in strong local economy, I think attracting private and public investment continues to be important, and we do that from an advocacy perspective as well. Supporting startups, and then I suppose the one that we've been talking about a little about as well is attracting, retaining and enabling participation in workforce to meet industry needs. I think we've got a real opportunity here to attract good people to Geelong, given our our environment and the coast that we have, the flora and fauna around us, the opportunities and the access. I think there's an opportunity to attract skilled and professional people to Geelong to meet those industry needs. So a lot of work that still can be done in that area, but certainly positive for the future growth of Geelong.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Councillor Asher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and yes, very well articulated, Councillor Contell. I also noted quite a few interesting actions. Many of the on-track actions are highly significant, and it's a credit to the team for the really solid ongoing work that they're doing. A few examples of the range of perhaps small but important actions, and also some of the on a rather mighty scale, including housing and transport, as Councillor Contell mentioned. But one of the seemingly small but critical actions I particularly liked was expanding the drop-in feeding support program to include the Bellarine. So now Ocean Grove welcomes parents of babies up to 3 months old to provide support and assistance with nutrition. So those sorts of programs can make a real difference to little lives. Equally, delivering a training and education program with the traditional owners with a focus on tourism. Very important for this region to make sure that we do acknowledge our traditional owners and translate that into commercial opportunities as well. Construction of the Northern Aquatic and Community Hub, obviously, huge project that was talked about earlier by John Aaron, and I think we thank everybody's contribution to that amazing transformational project. And of course the concepts for stage 2 of the Bellarine Pool 2 is on track. We were out there today having photos taken because the pool's now been filled. And the implementation of the Sparrowvale Master Plan also out in the Cardinia ward, but I think that will service the Bellarine and certainly the Geelong area as well into the futures. And the 10-year biodiversity strategy. So much more, so many great environmental things happening, and just social infrastructure and social sustainability projects that are happening. So really well done to the team, really good credit to them all. Thanks.
Councillor Asher. Any other councillors comment? Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Just quickly, I just want to touch on one point that stands out for me as, I guess, one of the portfolio holders for planning and particularly EcoDev, is the commence the planning for new residential strategy for Central Geelong, which has not started. I'm just going to make a couple of quick comments about the importance of that, of getting our council officers to get involved, I guess, at another level. Although there has been substantial development of a residential capacity in around Central Geelong. We've got the R flats, we've got apartments up at the Holiday Inn area there, Mercer Street, Mercer and the Miramar. So it is occurring. And I guess for a new residential strategy for Central Geelong, we need to know what that is and be a part of that discussion immediately, because our policy is to have 10 to 12,000 people living in the CBD area, and we're committed to that. So we need to be at the table when those discussions are taking place and understand what the next sort of larger developments are and what the concepts may look at, knowing that already there are community leaders out there bringing concepts to council of what parts of the CBD area might look like, and what that might offer to us as a council and the community. And I guess one of the issues seems to be waiting for state government funding. So I'd be curious to know what that amount is we're waiting for, and what that money is going to be specifically used for, given the work that's been done to date. Again, I don't think we want to get caught out by not being proactive in the CBD residential strategy, because we see, if the issues around the CBD are well documented, and one of the things, solutions we think to some of those issues is getting people in there living and activating those areas, so to create a better environment and a safer environment overall. So I just make those comments. It's not a criticism, it's just more about making sure that we don't fall behind in that strategy, and we are informed and engaged in what that strategy looks like and how it's going to roll out and the effect it's going to have. I just think that's very important for us as a council group.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Indeed. Is there any further councillors to speak?
Just to endorse what Councillor Harwood said, and remembering what the Honourable John Aaron said earlier tonight, we've got two years to go, Councillor Harwood, until the end of this particular council phase. And I really do hope that we can make some great progress here where it has been going slowly for various enunciated reasons. Thank you.
Indeed. Councillor Contell to close, please.
Probably not a lot more to say. I actually agree with Councillor Harwood, and a lot of what he said makes sense, and there's been a lot of reports that we've been looking at recently that either complement what's being what the initiatives are in this plan, or need to complement it. Whether it's be the parking strategy that we talked about recently. All of that plays into what we're trying to achieve here. If you've got people living in the city, what does that mean for parking? What is our transport and connectivity policy going to do to assist with that growth? We talked about the attractiveness of Geelong and getting more people down here, and some of them will want to live rurally, some of them want to live on the coast, and certainly some will want to live in the CBD as well if the opportunities are there. Still think there's great investment opportunities here in Geelong, and so this plan is certainly important, but executing it's even more important.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Carried. Item 9 on the agenda is adoption of Amendment C451GGEE, Correctional Planning Scheme Anomalies. I have a mover in Councillor Harwood and seconded in Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report asks Council to adopt the amendment C451GGEE, the correction of the planning scheme anomalies, to the Greater Geelong planning scheme. So the adopted amendment would then be submitted to the Minister for Planning for approval should it go through. The main amendments include changes to the planning scheme maps and ordinance, including the deletion of the heritage overlay where it is no longer required, rezoning publicly owned land to the public land zone, removal of the redundant entry in the heritage overlay schedule, removal of the public acquisition overlay from land that has been acquired by the nominated acquiring authority, and minor corrections to clause numbers within the Urban Growth Zone Schedule 3 and Urban Growth Zone Schedule 6. The predominantly affected areas are out in the Armstrong Creek, Charlemont area, also Lara and parts of Highton. So this is basically, I think the term was tidying up the scheme. Some may argue that the planning scheme is an anomaly on its own, but that's a whole other discussion. But I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Yeah, look, Councillor Howard summed it up in that, it's really a tidy up of the planning scheme. It affects about 20 properties across the municipality in Charlemont, Armstrong Creek, Lara and Highton, and the planning scheme are really the team who've actually sort of had a build-up of these anomalies and errors, and this is a way of actually cleaning it up. Fixing the planning scheme because it's got these errors in it, and I suspect in 15 or 10 years' time the same thing's going to happen again. That we'll have to review it and clean it up again with another amendment like this. Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Aiken. Any other councillors to comment? Councillor Harwood to close.
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. Item number 10, council appointments to Municipal Association of Victoria. Moved Councillor Murray, seconded Councillor Contell. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is an appointment of councillor to the Municipal Association of Victoria, the MAV, and the role of the delegate is to participate at State Council, so voting on behalf of Council on matters, report to Council on MAV matters and decisions, have regard for any protocols published by the Board in relation to their functions as a delegate, meet with and provide feedback to the Regional Board Director and other representatives from the region at MAV functions, and participate in MAV's strategic planning, and of course follow councillors up to date with everything that's going on at MAV. And the MAV is a legislated peak body for councils and the voice of local government in Victoria. And Mr Mayor, we've cast the net far and wide amongst the councillor group, and Councillor Maloney is put her hand up to be the delegate for the council, and Councillor Mason will be the substitute delegate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Contell.
By Councillor Peter, and congratulate Councillor Belinda and Councillor Jim, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any of the councillors wish to comment? Deputy Mayor Aiken.
I join the congratulations of the new reps, but I actually want to acknowledge the current rep. Councillor Gresbeck has actually served for the last, I think, 3 years as our MAV rep, and in fact, for the last 2 years has actually sat on the board as a member of the MAV. So she's represented council, and this council at the highest level you can in terms of the Municipal Association of Victoria. Councillor Gresbeck will tell Councillor Maloney she will learn a lot, she will network immensely, and it will give her a broader understanding of the local government sector at a state level. There's 77 of us floating around in Victoria in terms of local government authorities, and the MAV covers all of them. And it is a great experience to actually understand the power of local government in a collective basis. And I look forward to Councillor Maloney filling the shoes of Councillor Gresbeck and fulfilling them in the same manner that Councillor Gresbeck did as well too, because she certainly did with great honour and pride for Geelong as a councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, throw back to Councillor Murray to close.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Aiken stole my thunder. I was going to finish on Councillor Kiley, and she may be one of the 20 that is viewing online from perhaps up north. So to you, Councillor Kiley, thank you very much for your time and efforts as our representative on the MAV. You certainly have done a great job, and big shoes to fill for Councillor Maloney. So thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Congratulations, Councillor Maloney and Councillor Mason. Item 11, planning authorisations. Council to staff. Moved Councillor Harwood, seconded Councillor Murray. Councillor Harwood.
Mayor, this is a simple procedure of welcoming Amanda Firenz, hope I got that pronunciation right, to Council and to the Planning Department. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillors comment? Councillor Harwood.
Nothing further to add. We welcome Amanda.
Excellent, absolutely. With that, put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. I'll move now into section, that brings section 2 to a close. I'll move now to section 4, since section 3 was brought forward earlier. Record of informal meetings of councillors. I have the record of informal meetings of councillors in front of us. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Asher, seconded Councillor Contell. All those in favour? Carried. Section 5 is planning delegations. Can I please have a mover? Councillor Harwood, seconded Councillor Asher. All those in favour? Carried. Section 6 leads us to the confidential items of the agenda. The first item of that is proposed lease of Ariston Childcare Administrative Centre. Can I please have a mover to put that in confidential? Thank you, Councillor Contell. Seconder, Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? Thank you. Second item is 22-23 community grants. Can I please have a mover? Confidential. Thank you, Councillor Asher. Seconded, Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? That's carried. 6.3 is contract for domestic animal pound services. Moved into confidential by Councillor Mason, seconded Councillor Maloney. All those in favour? Thank you. And 6.4 is employment matters. I'll move to put that one into confidential, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Aiken. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. All right, we're now to consider those remaining agenda items in our confidential section of the meeting. Can I please have a mover to close the meeting to the public so we can consider these items? Thank you, Councillor Mason. Seconded, Councillor Contell. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. I would like to thank both our virtual and in-person gallery from members earlier tonight for their participation. Good evening, everyone.